Hello and welcome to the Ignite Your Leadership Prowess podcast. I'm Muted Adebowale, your host as usual. And today on the show, I've got a phenomenal guest. Someone who was really amazing and will be telling us something a bit different from what we have been hearing. But this is a topic that I have spoken to with some of my clients before. So yes, I'm not going to spoil the surprise. I've got Faith Locken with me today, and she's the founder of We Rising. I'm sure you are itching to hear what Faith has got to say to us. Thank you so much, Faith, for being on the show with me today.
Thank you for
Really
having
nice.
me.
Thank you. Lovely. So, I didn't want to spoil the surprise, but I'm going to ask you something that's going to, lead us into that.
Sure.
Um, I know that you help people to build successful business. But
Mm.
before you got there, were you in corporate? If you were in corporate, how long for? What were you doing and what inspired you to move away from corporate into the business world? Or where did you get the guts to do that?
Well, yes. So I had a corporate career, just for over a decade, actually, working in sort of the real estate and built environment world, doing everything from consulting to investing and developing. And I really enjoyed my time there. And whilst I was there, I did a lot of work in the sort of diversity and inclusion space. So I set up internal business resource groups. I set up the internal kind of race and ethnicity groups, and I just worked a lot towards improving inclusion across corporate industries because I was seeing a lack of representation, particularly of my own community, so the Black community, at senior leadership positions. And I was seeing a lack of retention. And so I was kind of doing that, on top of my day job, so not necessarily getting paid for it. And then I kind of took a step back from diversity and inclusion because I was a bit frustrated at sort of the lack of progress that I was seeing. And but then that was in 2019. And then in 2020, the world witnessed the murder of George Floyd. And I've always been the type of person that wants to be the change that I want to see. And so I thought to myself, how can I help my community without necessarily doing it within a corporate structure? And so that's when the idea of We Rise In came about. It started off as a simple mentorship program. So I was pairing up senior leaders, senior Black leaders, I should say, with more junior, up and coming, mid-level uh, uh, professionals. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. So we introduced a leadership program, and this was all whilst working full time. I didn't see it initially as a business. It was very much a passion project, something that I felt that was my purpose and that I was being called to do. And eventually it got to the point that the impact that the business was having was so great and so impactful that I felt that it was time to really focus on that, and leave my corporate career. And then in relation to how did I get the guts to do it, it took some work, I must say. I invested in a executive coach to help me really reframe my mindset because when you've come from the background that I've come from, and we probably don't have time to touch on it too much, but I am from an immigrant background, having come here to the UK when I was 4 years old as a refugee of war. Growing up, it was always the case that you wanted to do well in school, get a good paying job, and just kind of, you know, work in the corporate sort of space and climb up the ladder. And so leaving that safe structure, that financially safe structure, to go into entrepreneurship, which is unpredictable. There was no guarantee that the business would work and there was no guarantee of income. I needed sort of help getting myself to that place where I could make that leap. And what I realized it was that technically I had all the makings of what I needed. I knew how to run the business because I'd kind of been doing it internally within organizations for many years. What I didn't have was that feeling of, I guess, capability from a mindset perspective. So, working with the coach, I was able to reframe my mindset, understand that this was a purpose I needed to fulfill, and that if I believed in myself and my abilities, that I would be able to achieve it. And then I guess the thing that kind of really pushed me over the edge was the fact that I am a person of faith and I lean very heavily on my faith. And I spoke to a good friend of mine who had recently left his job to work on his own business. And he'd said to me, Faith, we cannot call ourselves Christians if we're not prepared to step out in faith. And that line lives with me to this day. And so it was at that point that I said, do you know what? Life's too short. I need to take the leap, bet on myself, and jump. But I didn't do it, without planning. So I made sure from a financial perspective that I had enough in savings and enough money within the business that I'd be able to financially support myself, at least for the first 6 months. What transpired was that I was able to kind of, leave, and I've been working now in the business for just over a year full time. And, thankfully things are going well.
Lovely. That is really fantastic. What a transition. And yeah, your faith was something, but the fact that you relied on yourself, you believed in yourself and what you saw before you, and the willingness to want to help other people. I guess these were the things that really propelled, that dream, that aspiration for you. That was really lovely. Well done. So, did you really have a clear business idea before you left your corporate job, or did it evolve over time?
I think I'd say a bit of both. So by the time I was ready to leave, I'd already been running the business as a side hustle for 2 years. So we were generating revenue from day one. We actually won grant funding. We pitched and won grant funding to kickstart the business. That was back in 2021. And so from the back of that, we had corporate clients and, money was coming in. So it was almost, I guess, validation. It was proof of concept. So I knew that in leaving that I knew that I knew how to run a business. But when I did leave, I think the evolution now is the fact that I've been able to go on accelerator programs and really learn the ins and outs of business. So I was never really great at sales and marketing. And that's something that every business needs. And I would go as far as to say, even if you're not a business owner, if you're someone that wants to elevate your personal brand or elevate yourself and be seen as an industry leader or expert, in the knowledge that you give in your field, everyone needs to understand sales and how to market themselves, because you're selling yourself, right? In this kind of space. So yeah, so I've been able to evolve and like really try to hone in on the things that I didn't feel as confident in. And there's still lots to do and lots to learn. But I'm the kind of person that I love learning and I love to know what I don't know, and I'm not afraid to ask people when I don't know how to do something. So yeah, it's I kind of knew how to run it, but it was, I guess, somewhat running on a hope and a prayer. But then since leaving, I've been able to really formalize it, put structures in place, grow a team, so I'm slowly seeing it evolve.
Oh, that's really good and encouraging. And you spoke about, people needing to love sales and marketing because whatever business you're in anyway, you're selling yourself. So were there specific marketing strategies that you used at the time to help you, get yourself out there and get more clients?
So whilst, to be honest, our business has grown predominantly from word of mouth, and referrals. So we've had the corporate clients that we've worked with have referred us on to some of their clients or people they know. I had somewhat of a personal brand within the industry that I was in. So I've been able to actually get a lot of business from basically putting out there what we do. So on LinkedIn, posting about the business. I do a lot of public speaking engagements. I did a TEDx talk. So I take every opportunity that I have to talk about what we do. So we've to date not had to spend any like paid marketing spend. But we're now at a point where, we've kind of proven the concept these last 3 years. We're at a point where we want to scale. And so this is the point where we're going to start actually probably putting money behind like paid marketing strategies. So yeah, to date, it's literally just been word of mouth and referrals.
Fantastic, fantastic. So now let's go to the people who want to or have been thinking about how they can transition from
Mm.
having their corporate job to starting their own business. As I said, this is something I know that with some of the clients that I've had, we have talked about it. Some people are on the fence, some people are just thinking about it, different aspects of it. So what would you be saying to somebody who's thinking about transitioning from the corporate job to starting their own business? What's the first step? What should they do?
I think the first step is to figure out what business you want to run. I think my reason for leaving and for focusing on my business was very much an emotive one and a personal one. For some people, it's they just want to make have command of their own time. So I think the first thing is to really ask yourself and have an honest conversation with yourself as to why it is that you want to um, start your own business. Because Simon Sinek said it best, you always have to start with why. If your why or your reason for starting something isn't really strong and doesn't have strong foundations, you could end up leaving and then the business flopping. You know, as an entrepreneur, there are going to be days where you might not know where your next paycheck is coming in from. The business might be on its knees, and that's why having a really strong reason why or a purpose behind why you're doing what you're doing is so important, because it will carry you through the days when business isn't so great. So I'd always say, first really think about why it is you want to start a business. Once you've kind of confirmed that, yes, I do want to start a business, is what I want to do, I would look to figure out what the business is. And I would always suggest to people that they try and prove the concept. So start small. Don't sort of don't try and think about it being this huge, $1 million, six-figure business. Just start small. Just see if you can sell. See if people are prepared to buy what you're selling, whether it's a product or a service. Once you've tested that and you've got, somewhat of some confidence behind what it is that you're offering, I would say continue to do that. So continue to keep doing it on the side, and grow it to a level where, if you want to be sensible, you can match at least maybe your income, or at the very least your expenses. So what I did was I kind of financially looked at my situation, and I knew how much I was earning in the job that I had at the time. But I knew that realistically, the likelihood of me getting the business to the point where it was paying me exactly what I was earning in my corporate job was going to take years, and it was going to be very slim. So I thought, what are my expenses? How lean can I get my outgoings to? And then that was the target that I aimed for, in terms of saving enough money to, as a minimum, cover the first 6 months of my living expenses. And so that was me. I'm very practical. I know other people who prefer to just take the leap, because it then forces them to make sure it works. But I was someone that, because I had dependents, I couldn't just take that risk. I had to be a bit more calculated. And so, yeah, and then once you're kind of confident that your product can sell, your product or service sells and people want it, and it's earning enough money to cover whatever you need it to cover, that's the point that I take the leap.
Okay, well, I mean, that's a really good advice. Sometimes we just need to be clear on some of the actions we're taking, for the results that we want to get, before, we put in that action. That is really, really lovely. So which skills from your corporate job were most valuable in the startup of your, in your startup journey?
I would say this sounds so boring, but I think it's the boring skills that often get overlooked. So for me, what really helped me was routine. That routine, so the routine of getting up in the morning, getting ready, going to work with this one. This is obviously pre-COVID, but even during COVID, getting up, going to your laptop, having like a set time frame that you do work and then you shut off. That was something that I wanted to keep going. I didn't want to become complacent or lazy, so I approached the startup and the business as if I was an employee working for a big corporate company. So I would get up, I'd make sure that, I've got tasks in my diary, I'm, booking in meetings, and just really approaching it with a level of professionalism, because ultimately those were the type of clients that we wanted to attract. So I had to continue to operate in that way. So I would say that in the first instance really helped me kind of be disciplined enough to wake up each day, even the days where there wasn't any, meetings, making sure that I'm up and I'm at my desk and I'm doing something.
So what new skills did you learn quickly as an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh. Oh, there's so many skills I had to learn on the fly. Starting at the beginning, uh, creating the website. I'd never created a website before. I didn't have cash in initially. Before we won the grant funding, there was no cash. So I had to design a low cost website and I wasn't going to pay someone to do it. So I basically did it myself using Wix. And I think nowadays there's a lot better options out there, but that was what I used. I had to learn or understand CRMs, so sort of client relationship management systems or customer relationship management systems, how to really track customers that you're bringing in and using that data as a way to upsell or resell or get more clients. I had to learn the sales funnels. I had to learn how to make sales calls so that we could actually book clients. I had to learn finances, how to do accounts, prepare accounts, all of like just a lot. A lot of skills I had to learn.
Wow, wow. Well, so that's, and I think that's a part of the fact that you've got routine, you've got discipline, and you've made up your mind to make it work. So, you said, I've got to learn it, I've got to learn it.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
went for it. Well done. I mean, and that's part of the mindset you put it. So, how important is mindset in making this sort of transition? And how did you develop yours?
Mindset is, in my opinion, the most important thing you need. Mindset and resilience, and I think it's the mindset that builds that resilience. Um, it's super important, and I guess the way that I built that, like I said earlier, I had a coach that was supporting me, so we would have fortnightly calls and we talk about where my head was at in terms of, you know, when I was kind of feeling ready to leave. There were moments where I would, like anybody would have, moments of self-doubt, moments of feeling like you had imposter syndrome, moments of, question whether this is the right thing to do. And so being able to constantly reinforce my reason why and knowing that this was something that I was feeling called to do, that's what helped me essentially create the mindset that I have today. Yeah.
Great, lovely. So you spoke about, when you started and how you started having team around you, building your team around
Yes.
you. So how did you approach hiring your first team, your first set of employees, maybe one person or two? How did you approach that?
So if there's one piece of advice I could give to like anybody that started out is try to get someone in as soon as possible because I was trying to save money, but actually I probably lost money by not freeing up my time as the business founder, the person that was actually going out there and generating revenue. So the first person that I brought on board was an executive assistant. And just on an hourly rate basis, not sort of full time because I couldn't afford a full time employee. Just someone to essentially manage my diary because I was at a point where I think you get to like pinch points. So even if you don't want to hire someone, you'll get to a point where you're like, I now need to hire someone, because it was a case of I was getting a lot of inbounds, requests and people asking for my time, and I just couldn't keep up with the volume of inbounds and also continue to deliver the service that we were delivering, and at the high level that we were delivering it at. So bringing someone in that could just, as a start, kind of organize my diary, really freed up my headspace and then my time and energy to really focus on generating more revenue for the business. So that was the first person we hired. Second person we brought on board was a program coordinator. So our business predominantly is a service-based business. So we offer a bunch of programs that we run for our corporate clients, and bringing someone on board who could support with that delivery. And they only started in January, actually. So for 2 years, whilst working full time, I was the one creating the programs and delivering the programs, taking annual leave days from work to deliver the programs that I was delivering. So then I created, I guess, a system. So now I'm able to bring someone on board and teach that person that system. So now the program coordinator that we use basically does all of that legwork for me. And I'm now able to really just focus on generating more clients for the business. Most recently, we've hired a social media coordinator, because the power of social media is, I mean, you can't put a value on it. You have to market yourself and you have to be out there. And given that majority of our business has come from word of mouth referrals, or people seeing me posting on LinkedIn or seeing our company posting on LinkedIn, it just made sense to invest in having someone that does that more regularly, more consistently, and the visuals being much better than what I could create. It's always important, I think, to get someone that knows their craft. And I think as a business owner, particularly CEO, you're always trying to hire people that can fill the gaps in knowledge that you have. I'm definitely not I'm definitely not that. I'm not great with like design and stuff. I'm a numbers girl. I can make sure that we've got the money coming in and raising finance and that kind of stuff, and being able to pitch to raise investment. But social media design, not my bag. So it was good that we hired them. So now we've got those three working pretty much still part-time. We've managed to kind of make it really efficient. But yeah, that's the team.
Oh, lovely. Good. I know we've been talking about We Rise in, and we talked about how you started matching mentors with mentees and helping junior leaders rise to become leaders, that sort of thing. Let's talk about what you do with your corporate clients. How do you help them generally?
So we help our corporate clients in two ways. We first of all have a annual corporate membership. So our corporate clients sign up with us. They take on an annual membership, and that enables their employees to access the events that we run throughout the year and the programs that we run throughout the year. And that most corporate companies choose to go down that route because it's just a great way for their employees to access a wide network of diverse professionals. We then offer a bunch of sort of, I guess you could say, like a la carte services. So we have a reverse mentoring program that we do where we pair up professionals from our network with senior white leaders, and we take them through a reverse mentoring program that focuses on race and ethnicity. So getting the white senior leaders to understand and empathize with the lived experience of Black professionals in the workplace. And that's one of our more, I guess, popular programs. But then we also run inclusion workshops. We do workshops on cultural intelligence and how to get the most out of your team as a line manager who is managing a diverse set of direct reports, how to really get the most out of them by focusing on inclusion and making sure that the team really meshes well together and be able to extract the most value out of your diverse teams.
Lovely, lovely. That is so fantastic. And not just that, it's so needed, in the economies that we're in corporate world, that we are emerged in, with all of the struggles with diversity, inclusion, making people feel that they belong within the culture and all of these things. Wow, it's so, so needed what you do. Wow, well done. Thank you so much for that. So, what do you wish you'd known before making that transition, now thinking back?
Oh, that is a really good question. What do I wish I'd known? Huh. I think you stumped me. I've never been this silent before.
Yeah, thinking back, all of the knowledge you have know your experience. Let's look about your experience,
Yeah.
when you started, how you got in, how you have navigated the transition to this point, and then you look back at all of the things that happened. If I knew something before I made the leap, maybe it would have made it easier, or maybe I would have done something differently. What would that have been?
I think it would have been. I wish I would have known how powerful telling people your story and telling people what you're doing is. Because I think when I left the industry, because it was such a different thing to what I'd been doing before, and because there was still an element of fear, I didn't want it to fail and then everybody knows that I failed. And you know how on LinkedIn, when you change a job, people will set their status to say, I've just been promoted or I've just got this new job. I thought about the idea of saying, I've now left the industry and this is what I'm doing. This is the business I've set up. And I was so nervous. I was like, actually, no, I'm just not going to say anything. I'm just going to keep it under wraps and just talk to the people that I know or the corporates that we already have. Whereas if I had just been very out there right from the beginning and really, really had faith in myself that it was going to work, I imagine that we would have been able to gain traction much quicker. So now I put out there a lot what we do. And yeah, we're starting to generate more business. But yeah, tell everyone what you do and don't be afraid to say what you're doing and believe in yourself.
Oh, that's good. Tell everyone what you do and don't be afraid of sharing what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is one of the greatest assets you can have. Either you're in business or, you're in corporate. It's just about telling about what you do and what you believe you're good at doing.
Exactly.
That's where the magic happens. Lovely. So how do you balance the demands of running a business and, having your personal life?
Oh, it's I think because right from the outset I was very disciplined with time. I didn't want to work myself to the bone. I didn't want to, work all hours of the day. So I was always very disciplined with like shutting off at 6 p.m. Some days I'll work beyond 6 p.m., but I just was very conscious that the whole reason I left my, working corporate job was one, to obviously fulfill the purpose that I believe I'm here to fill, but two, to have command of my own time. And to be able to, I love to travel. I love to experience new things. I love to spend time with my loved ones, family and friends. And so it would have made no sense me leaving that corporate life to then just basically work myself to the bone and not be able to enjoy some of the perks that I'm now able to enjoy. So when I left last year, so I left the industry end of April 2023. I booked a trip to Brazil, and I went to Brazil for a month and just took. I mean, I was working a little bit, but it was just nice to kind of get away, have a completely new kind of scenery, and almost decompress and shed that old self, and then come back re-energized, ready to really work on the business when I came back. And then I actually proceeded to go away once a month for 5 months. So I went to a different country every month. Um, Still working, so I still take work with me, but it's nice to be able to work flexibly from anywhere in the world.
Okay, that's really great. So looking back now from when you were in corporate, when you started thinking about transitioning, and when you actually transitioned up until now, would you have done anything differently?
Um, I might have. No, I wouldn't have done anything differently, because I'm a firm believer in divine timing, and I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. So I think the timing was what it was. I wouldn't have sort of changed anything, because the lessons that I've learned, even if there were mistakes or things that I didn't do, I learned from them. So no, I wouldn't do anything differently.
Okay. So if anybody was thinking of moving from corporate to starting their own business, I know we talked about, where they can start from and things they can. Do you have anything that you use? Do you mentor them? Do you help them in any way? Are there practical ways that you could be of support to them?
Yeah, so I do actually mentor people that are looking to make that transition. I do it essentially as it's almost like a course, really, but it's not the core business. So I usually only reserve that for individuals who have reached out to me specifically, and I kind of work with people on a case by case basis. But that is something that I offer, because there are a lot of people in my network and in our network at We Rise In, who are considering making a similar move. So we do try to run webinars, and we get business experts in, to support the individuals within our network who are looking to make that transition. But in terms of me personally, I try not to take on too many mentees each year. There's just a handful.
Okay. So how do you see your business evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Wow. It's good. It's a good thing you asked. So we are actually now at a point of securing our first physical space. So the membership that we've grown, so from inception, we've now grown to just over 2,000 mid to senior level Black professionals, creatives, and entrepreneurs within our network. The feedback that we're getting from our network and our community is that they really want a physical hub space where they can meet, they can network, they can host meetings, they can co-work, they can do client entertainment. And that's something that we've always been exploring since inception. And we're now at a stage of, we've basically found a space in central London, and we're currently undergoing lease negotiations with the landlord. And all being well, we will have a physical members club spring 2025. So watch this space. We'll be selling pre-memberships over the next few months.
Lovely, fantastic. So I'm sure, this is something a lot of corporate organizations, individuals in the corporate would like to know more about. and even people who want to transition to meet you. Definitely we're going to be adding your details to the show notes, but are there specifics as to how they can contact you should anyone wants to, find you and speak to you?
Sure. So if you want to contact me, you can reach me on LinkedIn. So Faith Locken. And if you want to contact the business, it's contact@weriseinc.co.uk. Or you can just go to the website, weriseinc.co.uk, and all the information is there as to how to get involved and how to join our membership.
Good. One last question. So what's your goal as an entrepreneur? Your future goal?
My goal as an entrepreneur, as a human being, is to positively impact the lives of others.
Lovely. Positively impact the lives of others. Wow. And that will go a long, long way, because what I say about things like that, when you impact the life of one person, that will spiral into impacting the lives of many more people. Thank you
Exactly.
so much, Faith, for being on the show with me today. It's been an amazing time, very inspiring conversation. Well done for what you do. I'm really, really pleased and honored to have you on the show. And that's where we're going to be putting an end to the Ignite Your Leadership Prowess podcast today. I'm muted Adeboale as usual. And until I see you next time, you keep being the best of who you are. Thank you for coming on the show.